want to talk to you about one of the deep roots of faith, namely hope. On occasions, hope must be a very deep root indeed, as it must keep the tree from falling when all around is arid and lifeless. Hope must endure when the environment is devoid of comfort or sustenance. I personally believe that I understand more about hope now than I used to a few years ago. Almost 3 years ago, my wife died after a prolonged battle with cancer. The loss was unimaginably hard, and on most days it still is. Even so, and even in the midst of it, I was aware of something called hope. The nature of it is not always easy to pin down though, is it? You know, at that awful time of bereavement, I had all manner of cards and letters, as you can imagine. Some were typed and some were handwritten, some were fulsome and some were brief, but there's one in particular that I remember. The writer talked about loss and pain which arises from it with a real tenderness and compassion and understanding. She then signed off the letter with a cheery, "Hope all's well with you," as if she'd not read the rest of her own letter. It was a slip of the pen, and nothing more, I'm sure. All the same, it does suggest how little we understand this particular word. Writing to some people who were really up against it owing to their faith, the writer of a letter in the Bible called Hebrews says this: "We have this hope as an anchor for the soul." Generally, an anchor is something which is attached to an object larger than itself. An anchor keeps a ship from drifting precisely because it is embedded in the vastness of the seabed. Hope for the Christian is embedded within the promises of God and their prior experience of his presence. So on that November morning, when I lost my best friend and the grey rain streaked down the windows like tears, it was certainly that way for me. At some visceral level, somewhere beneath all the pain, I knew that all would be well. In 1871, Chicago businessman Horatio Spafford was going through the most terrible of times. His business had burnt to the ground in the Great Chicago Fire, and his young son had died of polio. Thinking it would do them good, his wife and daughters set sail for a holiday in England. Halfway across the Atlantic, the ship was involved in a terrible collision and all the daughters drowned. As soon as possible, Spafford set sail to join his wife. When his ship was passing over the exact point where the tragedy had occurred, he penned the words of his hymn, "It is well with my soul." Here's some of them. "When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my soul." In such circumstances, hope is not a kind of delusion which pretends that all is well when it's clearly not. Nor is it a kind of relentless optimism which sees only the good and never the bad. It might best be described as a kind of deep trust that God, who sees all things, has even this in hand. In general terms, I hope to see all God's best plans come to fruition one day. In more specific terms, I hoped to be reunited with those that I have lost when the time is right. Hope stretches from now until then and back again. Hope runs deep, and it is one of the roots of my faith.